Welcome to What's After High School. This presentation is a broad overview of the transition to adult life for youth with disabilities and special health care needs.
Family Voices of Wisconsin designed today's training. Family Voices is a family-led, state-affiliated organization that is part of the National Family Voices organization, promoting quality health care and long-term supports for all children and families, particularly those with special health care needs and/or disabilities. Our work is focused in the areas of education, family leadership activities, and public policy. There are 5 regional centers that are part of the Children and Youth with Special Health Care Needs Network. Staff at the regional centers know about many resources in your community and can answer many of your questions. Often, regional centers have family members as staff, and they are able to relate to many of your concerns. If they don't have an answer, they will find one for you.
Family Voices of Wisconsin made this training in response to families who felt frustrated with the available information on transition. Most only give a big picture or 30,000-foot explanation of transition without any real detail on the areas involved in it. Family Voices brings our point of view to this material, including the idea that people with disabilities contribute to and benefit from their communities, and that family members are part of this process as advocates, teachers, and agents of change. This information may not be your reality right now, but it's based on what we believe are best practices. This is how many of us feel when we think about transition. We hope that this training will help you feel a little bit less stressed and identify some next steps to explore. The definition on this slide is given so that we all have the same idea about what transition is. Everyone has gone through different transitions. Your children have also already gone through transitions into kindergarten, into middle school, into high school, and they may have also experienced other individual and family transitions. It's important to note that all youth go through this transition. However, families with youth who have disabilities and/or special health care needs need to be more active in supporting them through this process. Let's talk about a vision for the future. All parents have a vision for their children, and this vision can change for your typically developing child as well as your child with disabilities. The most important part of this vision is that it's guided by your child's interests and skills. These skills need to include tools for developing independence, like skills and interest inventories offered at school, extracurricular activities, leadership activities, community opportunities like volunteering and job shadowing, and using teachable moments and role playing to teach self-advocacy skills. Doctors' offices are a great place to start using these skills and then generalize them to other places in the community. It's important when building these skills to consider your tolerance for the risk and safety of your child, as well as his or her own tolerance levels. This will let you know the level of support that your child needs to both get ready for the future and reduce stress. Here are some web links to help you get started with information, assistance, and navigation. This slide has web links on emotional support and community connections. Here are several resources available to assist you in this process. They can be found on the Family Voices of Wisconsin website. Let's begin by digging into the first of 4 areas of focus: financial and legal considerations. In Wisconsin, a lot changes when someone turns 18, regardless if he or she has a disability. Suddenly, your 18-year-old child can vote, get married, serve on a jury, serve in the military, and enter into contracts, including credit cards and loans, among other things. To get ready for these new rights and responsibilities, Transition planning is added to your child's school IEP beginning at the age of 14. The IEP team will add a document called the Post-Secondary Transition Plan, PTP, to guide talks about transition goals, activities, supports, and services. Another important step towards transition is at 17 years and 6 months, when you need to contact your county's Aging and Disability Resource Center, ADRC, to apply for adult long-term support programs, and it's also a good reminder to apply for supplemental security income for your child at this time. And remember, even if your child is receiving SSI now, they'll need to reapply the month that they turn 18 because the eligibility criteria is different for children and adults. In recent years, there have been a lot of legal changes to healthcare. Everyone has heard these terms, but it's important to know what these changes mean to your family. First, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, are laws on patient privacy. These laws protect the privacy of children starting at 14 years old. This means that even though you pay the medical bills and health insurance, your 14-year-old's healthcare providers may withhold information from you about your child. Next, changes to private health insurance make it possible for young adults to stay on their parents' insurance until they are 26 years old. If this isn't an option for your family, you need to contact your county's ADRC when your child is 17 years and 6 months old, like we discussed on the last slide, to make sure to get or keep Medicaid coverage. Finally, parents need to remember that on the day your child's 18th birthday, your parental rights end. Before this happens, your family needs to discuss your child's ability to make decisions and think about the type of supported decision making that is the best choice for him or her. We'll discuss these options next. Supported decision making is an alternative to guardianship. It lets people use friends, family members, and professionals to help them understand the choices they face, so they may make their own decisions without the need for guardianship. It's a way to give help with decision making without using any long-term legal limitations on personal rights. Decision making is a learned skill. We need to allow young people to practice making decisions for themselves. By allowing them to choose, we're encouraging them to be independent and confident. Depending on your young adult's ability to make decisions, there's a whole spectrum of choices to help or support him or her with decision making. If your family feels that guardianship is too restrictive, power of attorney, POA, may be a better choice. A POA is a document which gives another person, the agent, permission to handle legal, financial, or health care decisions for an individual. Families can use a standard state form to set up a POA on a temporary or more permanent basis. Another financial option is setting up a trust, which allows access to money through an outside person or agent, so there's oversight with these decisions. And, as we've discussed, a release of information from care providers will let them share medical information about your youth with you. Guardianship is the legal option that most families are familiar with. If it's the best fit for your family, you need to be aware that this is the only choice that goes through the county court system. You can go through this process on your own. You can hire an attorney, or if your county offers this, you may get help from a service coordinator. Your regional center or ADRC are both great places to get information you'll need to begin. Now let's talk about financial planning. ABLE, or Achieving a Better Life Experience accounts, are a fairly new tool that can help people save earned or gifted money without affecting their benefits. Wisconsin doesn't have ABLE accounts, but Wisconsin residents can take part in other states' ABLE accounts programs. To get more information about ABLE accounts, visit the ABLE National Resource Center at ablerc.org. Another financial planning tool to be aware of is a special needs or supplemental trust. These trusts make it possible for your young adult to save inherited money without putting their public benefits at risk. This is important because your child can't have more than $2,000 in assets if they're on Medicaid or SSI. If you think that an inheritance is a possibility, set up a special needs or supplemental trust for your child, and then state that trust, not your child's name, in the will of the person leaving the money. Also, remember that the laws about what this money can be used for are very strict. It cannot be used to pay for food, housing or rent, clothing, or medical care if your child's getting SSI or Medicaid. These handouts have more information. They can be found on the Family Voices of Wisconsin website. Since we've been talking so much about public benefits, let's go over this broad range of programs. SSI, Supplementary Security Income, is based on income and disability. When a youth turns 18, SSI will use only his or her income and assets, not your family's, to figure out eligibility. SSDI, Social Security Disability Income, is based on the youth's work record or parent's work record after retirement. An adult child with a disability can collect both SSI and SSDI. Medicaid is health insurance coverage. It comes with SSI. Medicare is also health insurance coverage. It comes with SSDI. People can have Medicaid and Medicare at the same time. Another important thing to know about Medicaid is that it's also the doorway or way to access payment for long-term supports like the Children's Long-Term Support Waivers, CLTS, and Family Care or IRIS. We'll talk about vocational rehabilitation services in the community living section. It's listed here because it's also a public benefit. Finally, there are generic economic supports for your adult child who's living in a home or apartment. These economic supports are open to anyone of low income, and you do not need to have a disability to qualify. Your ADRC can help you access these programs. Here are some web links to give you more information about public benefits and eligibility. These handouts also focus on public benefits and eligibility. They're on the Family Voices of Wisconsin website. Let's look at our second focus area, accessing and paying for healthcare coverage. This is our first Who Can Help With slide. One will start each section to let you know who you can partner with in this area of transition planning. The responsible group lists the main members of this team, while the bottom group lists people who you might want to include in this area. One area of healthcare that your family may struggle with is deciding on health insurance coverage for your adult child. The best way to start your search is by thinking about your child's healthcare needs. Knowing his or her needs will guide you on your choice between private health insurance, public health insurance like Medicaid or Medicare, or a combination of both. Next, you'll want to learn what your family's private health insurance offers. For example, I knew that my child could stay on our health insurance until he's 26, but I didn't know that our health insurance, like some other providers, will cover him as long as we have this plan. And if Medicaid or Medicare is the right choice for your child, remember that you'll need to contact your ADRC before your child's 18th birthday to get started on the adult eligibility determination because adult standards are different. Healthcare transition really varies from family to family depending on your child's needs. If your young adult has multiple or complex healthcare needs, the transition from pediatric to adult healthcare will take more planning. Supported decision making plays a role in this area. At the very least, you may want to ask your child to sign a release of information with healthcare providers and insurers so you can access this information if your input is necessary. You'll also want to think about portable medical information to have with your child at all times as he or she becomes more independent in the community. There are choices that you might know, like medical alert bracelets, and new ideas, like phone apps, that might be the right fit. As we mentioned, healthcare is only one piece of the transition to adulthood, but for parents and youth, it may cause more concern than other areas. Build Your Bridge, moving from child to adult healthcare, is meant to prepare your family for these coming changes. It's a free, in person training that introduces healthcare transition and discusses when to start planning for it. Contact your regional center to find a training near you. The healthcare setting is a great space for your youth to build skills and independence in a non threatening, accepting setting. Checking in for appointments, ordering prescriptions over the phone or online, and talking with medical professionals are all activities that can be broken down into smaller steps and generalized to other areas of life. These web links will give you more information about paying for healthcare and partnering with providers. The handouts on this slide give more detail on healthcare and transition. They are available on the Family Voices of Wisconsin website. Now let's move on to our third focus area, education. We'll cover both K through 12 and post-secondary education. Again, here's the slide that tells you who you can partner with to help you and your child think about this area of life. The first section talks about who are the main participants, and the second section offers suggestions of who else you might call on to help you with school. Education may be the area where your thinking will have to be its most creative and flexible. As we talked about earlier, transition planning starts at age 14 with the Post-Secondary Transition Plan, PTP, and the College and Career Readiness IEP. But you can start talking about your visions, dreams, and skills development with your IEP team whenever you're ready. The key to education transition will be knowing the path that your young adult is following. For example, if he or she is going to go on to college or tech school, then the 22 required credits and a diploma will be necessary. If post-secondary education isn't a good fit for your child, then be creative when choosing high school classes because a high school diploma isn't the goal. Instead, it's a high school equivalency diploma, HSED, which means the 22 necessary credits are not required and course choices can be made to better match your youth's interests. Parents might worry that if their young adults stay in school after their senior year for a transition program, that they won't be able to take part in graduation. This isn't true. Students can go through graduation ceremonies with their friends. They won't get their diplomas or HSED until they meet their IEP goals, though. Once the diploma and or HSED is issued, the IEP is closed and the K through 12 education is finished. There is no going back. Some students may have unmet IEP goals after their senior year, like using augmentative communication devices without assistance or using buses to get around the community. If there are needs like these, young adults may stay in high school and keep supports and services to meet these goals until the year they turn 21. Some students, on the other hand, may not want to keep going to classes, and they don't have to. You and the IEP team will have to find a different path to meet these goals. in the school building or in the community, through volunteering or through job development and work experience that's woven into their school day. These continuing students can explore different types of employment or try a post-secondary class in the community. If your student chooses to go to college or tech school, you'll have some planning to do. For example, IDEA, the special education law protecting K through 12 students, doesn't apply to colleges or tech schools. The Americans with Disabilities Act's ADA is the law that protects students at this level. It has many fewer educational requirements for school than IDEA. This means that students will not have access to the same supports and services that they did in high school. Another difference is that students need to seek out services and supports for every class they take. There isn't an overall plan like the IEP. And they'll need to supply a recent disability determination, usually within the past year, that's acceptable to the school. The best plan is for you and your student to contact the school's Office of Disability Services before enrolling to find out what's needed. This slide has web links to information on K through 12 and post-secondary education. The handouts on this slide give more detail on transition and education. They're available on the Family Voices of Wisconsin website. Let's look at our fourth and final focus area, community living. This includes working, living, and playing in the community. This Who Can Help With slide gives the main or responsible partners in the community living transition, as well as ideas for other people who may help. Thinking of your child working and living in the community, apart from family and friends, can be overwhelming. A less stressful way to start is to think about your own life and the things that bring you happiness, meaning, and fulfillment. This gives you a picture of the areas in your child's life that may need to be built or strengthened. Next, think about the things that bring joy, laughter, hold interest, and adds to meaningful relationships for your child. These answers are at the center of your child's outcomes, a long-term system of care for talking about goals. Then you can think about the support that your child will need to reach these goals. You might hear different terms used when talking about employment for people with disabilities. These terms do have different meanings, and it's important for your family to understand them. We'll start with competitive employment, which are jobs in the community that require filling out an application to compete against others for the position. No support is needed, and wages are at least minimum wage. Next, supported employment is competitive employment with a full range of supports, from drop-by check-ins to one-to-one assistance at all times. Customized employment, on the other hand, are jobs that are designed specifically for a person. They may or may not be supported. And self-employment is owning one's own business, either with or without support. These choices are different than segregated or workshop employment, where people do assembling or piecework and are paid less than minimum wage. Segregated employment is getting more limited in Wisconsin as the number of other choices grow. Pre-vocational services may be right for your child. These services offer general employment skills development for a specific job, while day services are a place, usually with recreational activities, for people to go on the days that they are not working but don't want to stay at home. You can mix and match any of these choices depending on what's available in your community, the amount of needed supports, and your child's interests, and his or her tolerance level for work. This also means that your child can work either full or part-time. If you're worried that work will lead to losing Social Security benefits, don't be. The fact is that people always make more money working than with benefits alone. If you're not sure about your child's employment, you can ask your Division of Vocational Rehabilitation (DVR) counselor to have a benefits analysis done by a work incentives benefits specialist. This specialist will also know about available Social Security work incentives programs. Most likely, a DVR counselor will connect with your child during the last year or two of high school, but depending on your county, you can request their input starting when your youth is 16, and they can take part in the IEP team. But before you contact DVR, there are a couple things you should know. First, DVR doesn't provide direct services. Instead, they work with the youth to make an employment plan that has training, skills development, and funding for vendors that give the services. And these plans may change many times through a person's lifetime. Second, DVR works with Family Care and IRIS, Medicaid waivers that provide long-term supports to pay for the supports that are needed at work. If it's necessary, DVR can work alone in this area if the youth doesn't qualify for Family Care or IRIS. Community living can look very different from one person to another depending on the amount of support needed. The agencies that manage supported living in the community help people to lease an apartment or own a home and choose their roommates and staff. In addition, they offer a range of paid and unpaid supports that meet the individual needs of each person, from very little support up to 24-hour support. And now the fun part, thinking about the relationships and the free time activities that make your child's life interesting, meaningful, and enjoyable. Don't overlook this part of planning for the future. It's as important as all the rest. You should also know the level of safety and tolerance for risk for you and your young adult, so you can let go of one another a little at a time, just like you would with your children who are typically developing. And to make this process go more smoothly, plan for unpaid or natural support people like family, friends, or relatives to be involved in your child's activities. These web links will give you more information about community living. The web links on this slide have more information about employment. These handouts are available on the Family Voices of Wisconsin website. We hope that this training has provided you with a solid overview of things to think about when supporting your child to transition to adult life. We know that this is a lot of information to think about and that everything can't be done at once. Consider what you want to deal with first and go from there. Family Voices of Wisconsin has other online trainings on our website. They can be found on the Learn page of our website, familyvoiceswi.org. You've reached the end of this training. Please help us improve by clicking on the feedback button by this training and letting us know how we're doing. Thank you.